University of Washington Professor David Armstrong recently spoke to Broadway Maven members about Bloomer Girl and other shows between Oklahoma and Carousel. Here's an excerpt from that talk.
Now, just a few weeks after Song of Norway, came a show written by Yip Harburg and Harold Arlen, who, of course, had written the score back in the 30s for The Wizard of Oz. Uh, and they had become intrigued by an idea for a musical that Harburg described to a colleague as having the freshness of the blockbuster hit play. I've added some words in here just to explain things, of the blockbuster hit play Life with Father and the brashness of Thee I Sing. Also, he continued, it is away from Oklahoma, which has spurred a new race of men all megalomaniacally bent on duplicating same. In hindsight, however, this is a very puzzling and ironic statement because, as Harburg's son and biographer pointed out, today Bloomer Girl, the musical Yip was then conceiving and talking about, might best be remembered as, quote, the first post-Oklahoma musical to consolidate and build upon the formal revolution that Oklahoma had begun. That's what his son had to say about it. Even if Harburg and Arlen were not consciously trying to replicate Rodgers and Hammerstein's success, artistically, they were very much on the same wavelength, which is evident from their score for The Wizard of Oz, in which every song is purposely and seamlessly integrated into the storyline that Harburg himself played a big role in plotting and shaping, in addition to his role as lyricist. In the view of musical theater historian Stanley Green, no other writer understood and appreciated the growing importance of the book and book writer more than Yip Harburg. So when Oklahoma broke through, Yip was ready, and by the decade's end, he stood second only to Hammerstein among those who transformed the American musical stage. Not sure I entirely agree with that, but it's very interesting opinion, and certainly he played a large role in it. With Bloomer Girl, Harburg took full command of the show, selecting and guiding the book writers, Fred Sadie and Zig Herzig. He wrote the lyrics, and he staged the production himself, so he's the director as well. And like Hammerstein, Harburg had a lot to say. He had strongly leftist political views, and his passionate advocacy for social justice and equal rights was irrepressible. Unlike Hammerstein, however, Harburg mixed a strong dose of comic satire into his work, and with Bloomer Girl, he found the perfect vehicle for his full agenda. The musical story revolves around and ties together themes of both women's liberation and racial equity, or as Harburg put it, the indivisibility of human freedom. Set just before and during the American Civil War, Bloomer Girl's central character is Evelina Applegate, which was played by Celeste Holm, Oklahoma's Ado Annie, of course, now graduating to the leading role in this show. And she is a hoop skirt manufacturer's daughter who has fallen under the sway of her feminist and abolitionist aunt, Dolly Bloomer, which was inspired by the real life Amelia Bloomer, who did invent the bloomers. As dramatized in the jaunty activist march, which we heard earlier, If It Was Good Enough for Grandma, Dolly and Evelina incite the women of Cicero Falls, New York, to throw off the inhibiting bondage of antebellum corsets and hoop skirts and embrace the freedom and liberty of wearing bloomers. Meanwhile, Evelina, who is also active in the Underground Railroad, is being courted by one of her father's leading salesmen, Jeff Calhoun, a Kentuckian whose escaped slave, Evelina and Dolly just happened to be hiding. The enslaved man, Pompey, who was portrayed by Julie Wilson, who you know as being Sam in the movie of Casablanca, celebrates his newfound freedom with The Eagle in Me, which authors Harold Mayerson and Ernie Harburg describe as the first theater song of the fledgling civil rights movement. In addition to its leading lady and Americana setting, Bloomer Girl borrowed several other elements from Rodgers and Hammerstein's hit. The second female lead was played by Joan McCracken, a featured dancer in Oklahoma who'd become famous as that show's Girl Who Falls Down. Most significant, however, and perhaps Bloomer Girl's strongest asset was its choreographer, Agnes de Mille, whose Civil War ballet became one of the highlights of the show, even though Bloomer Girl tackled big, important themes. It was essentially a musical comedy. But near the end of the second act, de Mille conceived a serious ballet about women's emotions in war, and this ballet single-handedly moved Bloomer Girl into the realm of musical play. And of course, the fact that every woman in the audience during when the show was playing was experiencing their own personal relationship and the emotion of living through a war themselves. This imbued de Mille's ballet with an intense and immediate impact. Nearly every critic compared Bloomer Girl to Oklahoma, including Arthur Pollock of the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, who wrote, "As everybody knows by now, New York has, in addition to Oklahoma, another phenomenon named Bloomer Girl that will make theatergoers happy when they can buy tickets for years to come." And nearly all of the reviews recognize the high quality and innovation of these new kinds of shows, even if they were very confused about what exactly to call them. Critic goes on, "Both shows are so curious as musical comedies that it's become necessary to describe them as something more high-toned than that, so they are often spoken of as folk opera. Whatever the definition, they are musical comedy developed to a better level than ever before anywhere, further along in the process of evolution." And while he agreed that with the general consensus that the creators of Bloomer Girl had not quite equaled the achievement of Rodgers and Hammerstein, unlike most other critics, Pollock did not ignore the big themes underlying the show, and he prophetically recognized the tremendous social impact that Broadway musicals were now capable of. He said, "Probably Bloomer Girl is a trifle less smooth, silken, leisurely, and assuaging than Oklahoma. It's a little jumpy now and then, but it does a remarkable thing. It actually has a meaning, something to say. It's a kind of new, amusing cry for freedom, hooking up the freedom of women with the freedom of the Negro, and by inference with freedom of all kinds. It's big and beautiful, rich in songs and lyrics, expertly played in all respects, a musical comedy masterpiece. Broadway's power is at last harnessed and put to work for a better world." It's amazing, again, to read these reviews, and again, a show that has nearly dropped off the map, even though for all its popularity and acclaim, it did not enter the canon of classic enduring Broadway musicals. Still, its significance in engendering the golden age of Broadway should not be underestimated, in my opinion.
Shalom, I'm David Benkoff, the Broadway Maven.
The Broadway Maven is a vibrant educational community that helps its members think more deeply about musical theater. Every month, members may attend 5 to 15 classes and other expert-led Broadway experiences, all for just $18.
Get 1 month free if you sign up as a member between now and December 31st.
We also foster enthusiasm for Broadway through the free weekly Substack newsletter Marquee and host an expansive YouTube channel. It's your home for Broadway appreciation.
Registration is now open for Sondheim Fest, a drop-in memory room on the 3rd anniversary of the Master's passing. There's no cost to stop by this 5-hour event on Tuesday, November 26th. We kick off a Chorus Line December with a free class on Monday, December 2nd at noon and 7 p.m. It's co-taught by David Benkoff and Gail Leondar Wright. And Tuesdays in November, Sondheim Bit by Bit. This is a members-only class, so sign up for your free month. Marquee is a free weekly Broadway appreciation newsletter with essays, reviews, piano talks, Broadway blasts, quizzes, and more. Sign up at thebroadwaymaven.com. The Broadway Maven YouTube channel has more than 400 videos, including more than 60 on Stephen Sondheim alone. There are quizzes, interviews, and video essays. Recent videos include Why Fiddler on the Roof Sounds Jewish, Math and Mean Girls, the use of rap music in Hamilton, Oscar Hammerstein's obsession with birds, and pastiche in the works of Stephen Sondheim. Sign up for everything at thebroadwaymaven.com. And here's a video I think you'll like.